And now it is time for our YouTube portion of the program. Once again, Dalton Hopkins, our only regular joining the program here. Jared Haas filling in for our Michael Massey. Yours truly filling in for Trail Out. And then this week we have from Sirius XM and former front stretcher alum, Mr. Davey Segal, joining the happy hour program. Gentlemen, Dalton, since you are the only regular co-host joining the program, tell our viewers / listeners what we are going to be cooking up on this edition of the YouTube portion of happy hour, my friend.
Yeah, based off of what a lot of people might be calling the best Pocono race ever, we saw a lot of rivalries become born. I mean, I haven't counted, but it feels like 8 different, rivalries have occurred. I mean, everybody's angry. Even Denny Hamlin was upset. The race winner is seemingly upset with the situation. So everybody's mad at somebody else at Pocono, which is not really a track you'd expect that to happen. So I ask you, gentlemen, what is your favorite rivalry in the history of NASCAR?
Davey, I'll have you go first, my friend, since you're the guest.
Oh, geez. So many to choose from. Oh, my God. I mean, you got so many from before our generations, right? You had Dale and Jeff. You had Dale and the other Jeff. You had one that comes to mind for me that isn't honestly my top one, but I'm kind of just vamping because I need to figure out one, is the Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch rivalry of the late 2000s, early 2010s. That's kind of when I was in my Harvick fanboy era. And I remember so distinctly when they had that dust up at Darlington. I think it was probably 2011 or so. And Harvick parked his car on pit road. Kyle kept going, and Kevin tried to punch Kyle in the cockpit, and then Kyle drove away and his car went shooting off into the pit road wall. That was pretty memorable. Honestly, another one that kind of wasn't really a quote unquote rivalry, but you could kind of just see them trading blows down the stretch. I think it was also 2011 that season, Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart coming down to Homestead, and the tiebreaker that went to Tony for winning the race after coming from the rear a couple times. That was really good. But the stories and tales that I heard from way back in the day of, I mentioned before, Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Bodine. Those are some good ones. And, we hear that story about Days of Thunder and one of the scenes in that movie based on when they kind of got that talking to by Big Bill France and then took the rental cars out and crashed those into each other. So just from the legendary perspective and hearing all those stories, I'd probably go with Jeff Bodine and the Intimidator. But there are so many to choose from. My God, I didn't even mention Darrell Waltrip and Rusty Wallace, hoping he chokes on that 100,000. I think it was that much money. There's so many to choose from, fellas. This is a tough question.
I gotta throw it to something a little bit more recent, that more developed in the Xfinity Series, but 2 regular Cup Series star. I'm talking about Denny Hamlin versus Brad Keselowski. A very interesting rivalry, to say the least. It started Charlotte in the 08 race where Keselowski and Hamlin racing hard. Hamlin didn't appreciate it, wrecked his left front fender. And Hamlin, after the race, said, if he's going to throw a rock, I'm going to throw a concrete block. And that kind of blossomed the Denny Hamlin type of arc, and that Brad Keselowski's here to say, because Brad Keselowski, he ain't going to back down, from a fight, to say the least. And then you fast forward even to 2009 at Phoenix. You look at, it was a late race restart. Keselowski spun Denny Hamlin. Hamlin said, Keselowski's got an amount too much. He might get a Cup Series ride, and that's it. And then, to top it all off, Hamlin got spun into Joe Gibbs' racing car. Season finale, which was the next race at Homestead, he didn't even enter in a Joe Gibbs racing car. No, he entered for CJM Racing's final start at Homestead. Spun him out during the race, took the lap penalty, and got a top 5. Taking a ride and just saying, hey, you know what? My only mission, wouldn't get you a good finish, and then spin out Brad Keselowski. That's a pretty good rivalry, that I'll have to say, between Keselowski and Denny Hamlin.
I don't even know what that team is, but that's only a stat that you would know, Big Hoss.
I remember.
Was it CJM?
Yeah, CJM, the number 11.
That was the 11 car.
American, the Incredible Pizza Company had Jason Keller, was in the Cup Series at first. But yeah, they
I'm
ran
looking
from
it up right now,
06
yeah.
to 2009.
Yeah, Incredible Pizza. I remember that.
I remember
Okay.
Brad Keselowski getting on the radio and laughing at that because he was just laughing. He's just like, "Yeah, I saw that coming."
Yeah,
and I think
I mean that, and everybody saw that coming. That's like that was probably worse than the Josh Berry going to the 4-car.
Carl and Brad had a good rivalry for a little bit too. Remember Brad's dad? He's not going to kill my boy. I remember that one.
I was actually at that race at Gateway.
Remember Brad had a rivalry with just about everybody in the Xfinity Series at one point. Kyle Busch didn't like him either. Hell, I still don't think they like each other. Brian, I guess I'll go ahead of you if that's all right. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna shove you to the side. I'm sorry about that, my friend.
Nah, you're fine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You might not have picked this one, so I don't know. First off, Michael Massey isn't here, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick for him. I know Davey already mentioned it, but yeah, I know that Rusty Wallace and Dale Earnhardt, the greatest of all time. Rusty Wallace would have raced Dale Earnhardt hard, and those guys got into it at Bristol. Dale Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace would be my pick for sure. Okay,
that's pretty good.
Would be the best.
I've never heard your Massey. That was pretty solid.
That was awesome.
I think that's the first time I've ever attempted it.
After so many people imitate me, it is so nice not to be on the receiving end of those things. So thank you.
Well done.
Because you're here. I can't imitate you right now. Like, so Massey's not here. So
you definitely can.
I'm the guest though. I know my place.
Well, I want to thank Michael Massey for giving that pick. But my pick, I'm going to go back to, I guess, what is arguably my childhood as well. Picture a young 11-year-old me. I guess I was 11, probably pretty damn close. Richmond, 2008.
Oh boy.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. gets turned by Kyle Busch. That is the day. That is the day I vowed that Kyle Busch would rue that day. A young 11-year-old me sitting in my bed, staying up way too late past my bedtime, and watching Kyle Busch turn Dale Earnhardt Jr. at Richmond International Raceway. I was furious because I was a junior fan back then. So, and ever since, and that stemmed way before that. I mean, look at 2007 when Dale Earnhardt Jr. was still racing for DEI and, end up getting involved with Kyle Busch at Kansas, turned him. And then at Texas, he took over his ride. He climbed into his car after Kyle Busch crashed out. Both he and Kyle Busch crashed out. That was a rivalry that was brewing. Have you guys ever seen the Rowdy documentary? First off, great documentary. I was blown away. I was really surprised with how good it was. But it documents how well what both Kyle Busch and Dale Jr. were feeling at that time. And Kyle Busch comes back in 2008 and wins, I think it was like 8 races in 2008. And Dale Jr. only got 1. But still, that was more. It was like along the lines of Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt. That was the fans of NASCAR going against this guy, this Kyle Busch, this rowdy who was kind of starting to make a name for himself, showing how good of a race car driver he was. And that was basically Rowdy versus the fans. And that is a rivalry that still has not ended. Maybe not against Dale Jr. per se. I know those guys have made up, but the fans still do not like Kyle Busch. I mean, I was at Pocono this weekend when Kyle Busch got called. There's a lot more cheers, yes, than there were before, but there were still quite a few boos. And I guarantee you that's all because those are those same NASCAR fans who watched that Richmond race the same way I did and also got upset because they knew Kyle Busch just wrecked the most popular driver in NASCAR, and they still have not forgiven him.
You thought the boos of Pocono were bad.
Richmond?
Oh yeah, the middle finger salute that occurred after that wreck in 2008. Oh my goodness.
Dalton, do you remember who won at Richmond that night?
I do. Clint Boyer.
Yes. He snuck that one away.
He sure did. He snuck right by those two.
I was thinking, and so I was just doing a little research, and like this NASCAR Reddit page had like some of the funny ones. Like I'm looking at a couple like Tony Stewart versus the media, Tony Stewart versus people asking dumb questions in the media center. That one made me laugh. But I had two of them that I thought of: Joey Logano versus Matt Kenseth, and that just boiled over at Martinsville. You had Harvick versus Harvick, Childress, KHI versus Kyle Busch when Busch just intentionally wrecked Hornaday. But I'm going to go with one that I was telling Davey to shh for a little bit because this was going to be my pick. These two guys tried. I honest to God believe these two guys were trying to kill each other. When Carl Edwards turned Brad Keselowski straight into the fence at Atlanta, and then he turned him straight into the fence at Gateway, and then Bob Keselowski said he's not going to kill my boy. I honestly thought that one of them was going to die because they absolutely hated each other so badly. And it was so compelling, whether it was Xfinity with the 60 and the 22 car, whether it was the 99 and whether he was in the 07 or some other car, the 2 or whatever, whether it's James Finch or Penske. These two drivers hated each other. And I don't know if they've made up. They probably have. But, I mean, it was absolutely incredible. These two guys, I honestly thought they were going to kill each other.
Well, breaking news, they didn't.
Nothing gets past you, Davey. And on that note, thank you so much for joining the YouTube portion. Remember to like and subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe.